Our outrage marketing works. It's kind of a Comicsgate juxtaposed to the LGBT thing. We're literally fighting fascists in the 30s. I think you mean figuratively. Oh, join the channel, support my coffee, subscribe, star crypto, or watch videos on Odysee, BitChute, Gab, Discord. Use Discord or email if you want to get a hold of me. Discord is full of crazy people, so I'm just throwing that out there. There's a market for everybody, and you got to market to the crowd at the moment they are fired up. Lick it and stick it. I mean, follow through. Don't get distracted by some shiny objects. Once you're winning, shut up because you're winning. Just keep continuing to win, at least for a while. Don't start throwing things into it. The situation here, you got a left-wing product that ordinarily would have a tough time getting buyers because, frankly, it looks derivative, and there are a lot of similar things on. It's like something silly, but it's also it's something silly drawn well. There's a lot of similar things on the market right now. Kickstarter has a lot of this type of LGBT stuff on there. If you go to Comics Kickstarter on their front page, and a ton of them are sitting under like $5,000, which for a color comic, I think I've heard it's something like, I don't know, about $30,000 to break even. So when you've got these tons of these BLT stuff on Kickstarter, it's like, oh, so it's $3,000. Okay. The thing is, they don't stand out because they're unable to connect with their buyer. The product is one thing, the marketing is the big thing. The product has to arrive, and it's got to be minimally competent. But for the first iteration, the first in a series, the first thing out the door, that's about it. It doesn't have to be much more than that. You take that and you keep improving and you grow the customer base. And people also know that. They know that the first thing out the door is not going to be Moby Dick. Don't think the first in the series has to be so perfect that you're paralyzed by fear. Just shoot your load all over the customer's face and then improve it the next time. But that method really works when you have good customer relations. You don't go into hiding, you're available, and they know what you're all about. And the thing is, a lot of things on the left, I see more at the left on the right, is the left is more smarmy and smirky, which is, that's kind of a hard sell even when you're on the left, which is probably why a lot of their comics are sitting at like $6,000. Well, okay, that's still not, it has to cross over from red ink to black ink to turn a profit. And I'm using sex references because it's kind of somewhat similar. It's doing something that is, you're nervous the first few times, it's messy, you don't exactly know what you're doing, but it improves with time until human couples have turned it kind of into a weird ritual art form and gotten really good at it. If you're with someone for a while, it's like it's this weird thing where it takes two people to do this art form. I know it's it's like a dance or an art form, but it requires I guess dancing requires partners too. All right, I'm no good at this kind of thing, these similes, metaphors, and analogies. Okay, so my point is, use whatever technique works. There is zero shame in psychologically manipulating the customer. Sales is not some cold environment. You're not buying a replacement vacuum cleaner belt. And I was thinking about like things to use for this comparison. I was thinking like, oh, fiber. It's like, what's more boring than fiber? You've got to have so many grams per day. But even when they're selling fiber, I'm sure if you go to Amazon and you're looking at the fiber packaging to put in yogurt to increase it, it's like insoluble fiber, but it probably shows like some fit young couple who are jogging. And I was thinking, oh, vacuum cleaners. There's nothing more boring than your basic standard $100 home vacuum cleaner. I mean, the old-fashioned kind of takes bags, but it's like, even they try to make, I have a vacuum cleaner, it's like they try to market it like it's a Ferrari, it's red and shiny, it's like they're trying to sell this thing, as if this is a lifestyle choice. It's like, it's a $40 vacuum. Like, that's all it is. And oddly enough, the thing has lasted like 20 years, and it's literally a $40 vacuum, which is kind of weird. But if you look at it, you're like, do they think this is a sports car or something? It's all red and shiny, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm surprised they didn't put fins on it. We're selling the vacuum cleaner experience for your busy lifestyle. Please don't have sex with a vacuum cleaner. So the vacuum cleaner belt, which oddly enough this one hasn't used, that's a weird investment now I think about it. It's like literally $40 and it's like 20 years old and still works. That's kind of weird. So I think it's a dirt devil. In comics and games, you're selling this shared experience. The BLT is selling this world of lovey-dovey gay babies versus the cold, cruel Germans of the 30s, tyrants, the fathers we never had, the oppressors, Trumpers, which is like Biden is Trump 2.0. OMG, living in Biden's America is literally like living under Sharia law of the tally goat lovers. It's BS. And, I love Comicsgate, but it's, similar, but it's also got a lot of BS to it as well. But in either case, it doesn't matter. Where's that book? Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. There's a lot of truth to that. Don't sweat the details. We're not invading villages. We're not writing Shakespeare or Mark Twain. Give people a product that they'll pay for, which is different than saying give people the product they want. No, the fundamental underlying truth is give people what they will pay for, even if it's not what they want. Those are two different things. More importantly, create the environment to sell your bull feathers. It will make you money, and if you're good at it, it can make you a lot of money, enough to leave whatever gig you're doing now and just go into making board games and comics. You want to make, say you're a creative person, which no doubt a lot of people in CG and in the BLT community are, a lot of creative people. You want to make comics or board games. You want to do something to express yourself artistically, but you also want to make a lot of money. People want to buy them. If you put those BLT games or Cyberfrog on the shelf, very few people are going to buy it. It just doesn't connect to people. But if you start tossing around terms like, OMG, someone's a TERF, and EVS wears Hugo Boss and collects World War II memorabilia, or trans rights are human rights, except in Afghanistan, then you'll get sales. You got to fire people up. Trans is super cool right now. It's a wave to ride. It'll be cool probably for another year. I kind of think we're definitely on the down slope of the trans trend. It's going to fade away, and the next cool thing, the next shiny object is going to replace it. I don't know, it could be trans, racial, furry, otherkin. Most of these things aren't real. They're bored people living in the first world with a lot of a need for attention and dopamine. And first world, there's a lot of first world problems living in the first world. It's like, are all these medications people are on? It's like, anyway, so if you're BLT, this is the perfect time to sell a book or a game. You have social media to help you drum up business and crowdfund to sell it. You don't have to go through some big company. In fact, I think I'm looking at a lot of these big companies. I'm wondering, like the media, you've seen the shine taken off the media. They've lost a lot of their status. I wonder if big companies are also going to, like Hasbro or some toy company. It's like, well, you can make the toys yourself and just sell them yourself. And it's something to think about. Like there's going to be this massively smaller structure of all these spread out little companies doing their own thing, trying to become the next big company. It's like just endless cycle. But now there's like, what an opportunity now with social media. And there's probably going to be less of, you're selling your IP to a music company or to you're selling the rights to a distributor or something like this, or they're buying an option. There's going to be less of that because you realize like, oh, these huge companies are just screwing people over. So unless you want to unionize these type of companies, well, hey, I'm all for if it'll take that. If you do it yourself, you own the IP, and you are your own businessman, even if you're a woman. And obviously, the BLT board game stuff is not going to be my cup of tea, because the BLT silliness aside, it's a bunch of fat people running around with swords. I guess plain soldier. If you're running around with a sword doing all that Dungeons and Dragons type of stuff, you're not going to be obese, or at least not for long. So you'd probably be dragging food, or that weight would just come shedding off. But a lot of things is like these people are terrified of drawing beautiful people. For some reason, it triggers them. So from a storytelling perspective, it's a fail, but they're not selling the story so much as the experience of being on a team. Most of their customers are, and this is going to sound like an insult, but it's really not, obese, Twitter addicted, shiny screen, cat lady, dopamine junkies who think they're changing the world while sitting on their couch and literally fighting Germans on Twitter. They post pictures of hillsides, like people with these busy, active lifestyles. And 90% of their time is on social media, not on hillsides, because, like I said, they're obese. They are tied to their tablets, and I can prove it. Go look at their Twitter history. What did you do Saturday? Oh, I went for a long walk. And you? Oh, I spent 10 hours owning the Chads on Twitter. I was all over them. I really showed them who was boss. I called them fashionable Germans of the 40s. And I smoked a bunch of weed. So I really mean it. It's not an insult, because the shiny screen Twitter life is the life they want to live. As Cartman goes to that camp of tolerance, because being an obese little troll is a lifestyle choice. It's my lifestyle choice. Blocking Chads and getting them banned on Twitter, that's what they're into. That's fine, because getting right-wing people banned is a good thing. If they still have a need for social media, that kind of clicking, they'll use Gab if they want. But Gab is much less addicting because there are fewer trans, otherkin, BLT Bolsheviks to fight with. It's mostly normies and shitheads, trolls, that kind of thing. And there are a few Hugo Boss types, but, free expression and all that. It's the conflict on Twitter that creates the addiction. If you spend 1 hour on Twitter, that translates to like 5 minutes on Gab. You get the news, you share a few World War II memes, then you're done. You go read a book or you go for a walk. My point is, the trans, pan, otherkin crowd, they want something to feel a part of. I doubt people are actually going to play the game, if indeed it's a board game. It's just a way to support your guys. There's nothing wrong with that, either on Comicsgate's side or on the furry otherkin side. People support Mike Miller, Doug TenNapel, Douglas Ernst, Tim Lim. I hope I didn't leave anyone out, but I probably did. Because they're Christians. And they're kind of like the public face of Christian Comicsgate, or comics in general. And yeah, they're Comicsgate, even if they don't really see themselves as Comicsgate. But that's not a valid reason to support them. That is an asinine statement of a child, especially with Comicsgate, because you got a group of guys who are openly right of center or European male, unapologetically white males. What are they expected to do about it? Or they're Christians. They're no longer welcome in the mainstream comic industry because the mainstream discriminates based on race, religion, and political views. Tim Lim and Mike Miller, they're not welcome either because they're, I think, one's Catholic and one's something else. But you get the idea, their political views. And there's a little shitlord in there. But Tim Lim, he is a funny guy. I really like that guy. The mainstream people insult the customers on social media. Why? And they're both amazing artists. I wish I could afford to buy some of their art. You look up on Mike Miller Pizza, it's like, $600 for this little postcard. The mainstream people insult the customers on social media. Why would you support them? The mainstream actually hates you based on if you voted for Trump. If you voted for Trump, they think you're a fashionable one in the 1940s. Like, Trump and Biden are on the same team, right? They're like, all these people, these Sanders and Warren, all these people, they think they're really progressives. Yeah, they're all playing for the same team, right? And it's not our team. We're not on the team. Like, if you're on the far right and the far left, you have more in common with each other. If you're a dark-skinned, fist in the air, power type of person, or if you're the fair-skinned, same fist in the air, power type of person, you actually have more in common with each other than you do with these billionaires. And I know some people are starting to get that. It's going to be an interesting revolution when it's this mixed group of people who are fighting to divest ourselves from these reptilian overlord controllers. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Again, join the channel. It helps in some way, I suppose. And I will see you guys all next episode.